The Galactic Council laughed when a human inherited the king's ugly daughter in his will. The king's only daughter, Princess Nyxara, had been left to an unexpected heir, a human. Ethan Ward, a diplomat from Earth, had never imagined his life would lead him across the stars, let alone into the middle of alien politics. He had always thought humans were small players in galactic affairs. Yet here he was, summoned to inherit a princess whom the aliens had long mocked for her appearance. The Virelians valued beauty above all else. Sharp features, glowing eyes, and perfect symmetry were the markers of status and influence. Nyxara had none of these. Her skin had subtle marks, her hair fell in an uneven pattern, and her eyes, though bright, were considered unattractive by alien standards. But King Zorvath had seen something else in her: intelligence, wisdom, and courage. Ethan arrived on the planet Virelia, the capital of the king's system, in a small human shuttle. The landing pad was massive, stretching over miles, surrounded by towers that glimmered with alien technology. Guards in sleek armor watched his arrival. As a human, Ethan felt small and out of place. Everywhere he looked, the Virelian's eyes followed him with curiosity and judgment. Inside the palace, the atmosphere was tense. Court officials whispered among themselves, and holographic displays lit the grand halls. Ethan was led to a chamber where Nyxara awaited him. The princess looked up as he entered. She was tall and poised, with a calm demeanor that commanded respect. Yet the subtle marks on her skin and her uneven hair caused some of the surrounding nobles to snicker quietly. Nyxara ignored them. Her gaze met Ethan's, assessing him with a mix of curiosity and skepticism. "You are the human who inherited me," she said plainly. There was no warmth in her voice, only caution. Ethan bowed slightly, unsure how to navigate this first encounter. I did not expect this responsibility," he admitted. "I am honored, but I also feel unprepared." Nyxara raised an eyebrow. "Unprepared? Humans claim they are intelligent, yet you tremble at the thought of a duty the king entrusted to you." "You will need more than honor if you wish to survive here." Ethan swallowed. "I am willing to learn. I only ask for guidance." Nyxara studied him for a moment. "Perhaps you have more courage than I expected. Many before you would have refused entirely." The court officials whispered, their amusement barely concealed. The Galactic Council, they thought, had made a joke. Humans were weak, incapable of leadership, and their appearance, frail, pale, unremarkable, made them laughable. The idea that a human would inherit a Virelian princess seemed absurd. Ethan felt the weight of their eyes. The future of his reputation and, perhaps, of human respect in this system rested on how he handled what came next. Nyxara led him through the palace halls, explaining the intricacies of Virelian politics. She spoke of alliances, rival factions, and the constant scheming among the nobility. Ethan listened intently. He realized that though humans might not have their advanced technology, they had creativity, adaptability, and empathy, qualities many aliens lacked. As they walked, Ethan noticed subtle gestures from Nyxara, how she moved carefully to avoid traps in conversation, how she observed every person in the room before speaking. She was cautious, calculating, and intelligent beyond what most humans would expect. Her appearance might have drawn ridicule, but her mind was sharp and quick. Their first formal meeting with the council was scheduled the next day. Ethan dressed in human formal attire, which looked simple and outdated compared to the flowing, glowing robes of the aliens. As they entered the council chamber, the grandeur was overwhelming. Massive pillars stretched high into the ceiling, and holographic symbols of power hovered above each seat. Council members from dozens of species sat in a semicircle, their expressions ranging from curiosity to open mockery. The head of the council, an octopus-like alien named Varek, looked down at Ethan and Nyxara. "So this is the human who dares to inherit a Virelian princess," Varek said, his voice echoing through the chamber. The Galactic Council must ask, why would King Zorvath choose someone so inferior? Murmurs of agreement spread through the chamber. Ethan felt a flush of embarrassment, but he stood tall. King Zorvath saw qualities beyond appearance and race, he said carefully. He trusted me because he believed in human courage, intelligence, and fairness. The council members laughed openly. Courage. Intelligence, another alien sneered. This human has no experience in ruling, no knowledge of our politics. He will fail, and he will bring disgrace to the king's legacy. Nyxara stepped forward, her voice calm but firm. You underestimate the human, as you underestimated my father's judgment. Your laughter does not change the truth. Capability is not determined by species or appearance. The room fell silent for a moment, shocked at her boldness. Then, as if to challenge them further, Nyxara continued, If you doubt me, you will soon see. Ethan Ward will prove that humans are more than what you assume. The council's laughter subsided, replaced by skeptical glances. The session ended without a clear decision, but the message was clear. Ethan and Nyxara were on their own. They would have to navigate the treacherous waters of alien politics without the council's support. Outside the chamber, Nyxara turned to Ethan. You have much to learn, she said, but I sense that you will rise to the challenge. Humans think differently than we do. Sometimes that difference is a strength. Ethan nodded, feeling both nervous and inspired. I will do my best. I cannot fail, not just for you, but for all humans who will be judged by my actions here. Over the next few days, Ethan followed Nyxara through the palace and the city. He witnessed the alien court's obsession with perfection, and the way they dismissed anything that deviated from their narrow standards. Yet he also saw the potential for change. Humans could approach problems differently, empathize with others, and see solutions that aliens overlooked. He began applying these ideas in small ways, negotiating minor disputes among nobles, using human logic to simplify complex bureaucracies, and finding ways to help citizens overlooked by the ruling elite. Each success, however small, caused whispers among the Virelians. The human, he might be clever, some admitted reluctantly. Meanwhile, Nyxara guided him, teaching him about Virelian culture, politics, and history. She shared her own frustrations, how she had been mocked for her appearance, underestimated by her peers, and often dismissed despite her abilities. Ethan admired her strength and began to see the truth in the king's decision. She was not ugly in any meaningful sense. She was brilliant, capable, and courageous. Her appearance mattered little compared to her mind. One evening, as they walked along the palace gardens, Ethan asked, Princess, why do you trust me? I am human, unproven, and laughed at by the council. Nyxara smiled faintly. Because you see things differently. You do not judge me by what others say. You treat me as an equal, and that is rare in this court. You have potential, Ethan. Do not waste it. The human felt a surge of determination. For the first time, he believed he could rise to the challenge. He would prove not only to the council, but to the galaxy that humans were capable, intelligent, and courageous. Days later, news arrived that the Galactic Council would conduct a public ceremony to test Ethan's worth. It would be a challenge, a trial designed to humiliate him and demonstrate humans' inferiority. The nobles of Virelia eagerly awaited the event, confident in their own superiority. Ethan prepared for the ceremony with Nyxara's guidance. They studied the council's past challenges, anticipated potential traps, and devised strategies. Ethan realized that human creativity and problem-solving could give him an advantage, even in a court filled with technologically superior aliens. The day of the ceremony arrived. The council chamber was packed, with representatives from across the galaxy. Ethan and Nyxara entered together, their presence drawing murmurs and sideways glances. The head of the council, Varak, spoke first. This human stands before us, claiming he can inherit a Virelian princess. We will see if he possesses the skills, wisdom, and courage necessary. He must demonstrate his worth through 3 trials: diplomacy, strategy, and moral judgment. Only then will we accept him. Ethan felt the weight of the moment. The eyes of the galaxy were upon him, yet he also felt a spark of confidence. He was not just a human, he was a representative of his entire species. Nyxara squeezed his hand briefly, a silent gesture of support. "Remember," she said softly, "your strength lies not in what they expect, but in what they cannot anticipate." The trials would begin soon, and the laughter of the council would not deter him. He had a new purpose, a mission to prove that humans were more than their small beginnings. That courage, intelligence, and heart could outshine prejudice and appearance. As Ethan stepped forward, he understood that this was just the beginning. The galaxy had underestimated him and underestimated humanity. The coming days would test him, but he was ready. For the first time in his life, he felt truly alive among the stars. And somewhere in the back of the council chamber, the whispers began. Maybe, just maybe, the human could succeed. The day after the council's ceremony was announced, Ethan and Nyxara began preparing for the trials. The first was a test of diplomacy, a simulated negotiation designed to see if Ethan could navigate alien politics and resolve a conflict without resorting to aggression. The council's chambers were transformed into a replica of a disputed system, with holographic planets and fleets projected above a circular table. Various alien delegates represented warring factions, each with its own customs, languages, and temperaments. Ethan observed the scene with fascination. The aliens spoke quickly, using gestures and sounds that were difficult to interpret. Their negotiations were complex, filled with hidden meanings and subtle threats. A single misstep could spark a conflict. Humans had nothing like this on Earth. Nyxara leaned close. "Remember, Ethan," she whispered, "you must listen carefully. Alien negotiations are not only about words but about timing, tone, and trust. If you act rashly, you will fail." Ethan nodded. "I will pay attention. I must find a way to use what I know to succeed." The first round began. Delegates from 2 rival planets argued over mining rights, resources, and trade routes. Ethan stepped forward, relying on basic human logic and empathy. He proposed a solution that addressed the needs of both sides, suggesting compromises and creative alternatives. At first, the aliens were skeptical. One, a tall, insect-like creature with translucent wings, hissed in disbelief. "This human thinks he can understand our needs. He cannot even perceive the subtleties of our customs." But Ethan remained calm. He explained his ideas patiently, using visual aids and clear reasoning. He appealed to shared benefits, showing how cooperation would create a better outcome than conflict. Nyxara watched with pride. "You're doing more than negotiating," she said quietly. "You're showing them human thinking. It is unfamiliar, but it works." After several tense minutes, the alien factions began to soften. They listened to Ethan's proposals, asked questions, and even suggested modifications. By the end of the session, the council declared that the negotiation had succeeded. Ethan had not only met the challenge but had done so in a way no Virelian diplomat would have expected. The second trial was strategy. Ethan was tasked with planning the defense of a hypothetical planet under attack. The council projected a scenario where enemy fleets approached from multiple directions, threatening colonies and key installations. Nyxara stood by his side, reviewing the maps and holograms. "You must anticipate every move," she advised. "Think of it like a chess game but with many more pieces." Ethan studied the layout carefully. Alien strategy relied heavily on brute force and overwhelming firepower, but humans often used ingenuity and adaptability. He devised a plan that combined defensive positioning with clever distractions and unexpected tactics. When the exercise began, Ethan's plan was put to the test. Enemy fleets moved predictably at first, but he had anticipated variations. Using decoys, rapid redeployments, and resourceful use of the environment, he managed to defend key installations while minimizing losses. The council members were astonished. "The human, he does not fight like us," one whispered. "He uses thinking instead of strength," Nyxara smiled. "Exactly. That is why he is dangerous to underestimate." The final trial was moral judgment. Ethan was presented with a scenario where he had to choose between saving a small civilian population or a valuable military asset. The aliens expected him to prioritize the asset, as they valued resources and power above lives. Ethan paused, considering the consequences. He remembered the lessons from Earth, the importance of valuing people and life. Without hesitation, he chose to save the civilians. He explained his reasoning, showing that long-term trust and stability were more important than immediate tactical gains. The council erupted in debate. Many were outraged, claiming that Ethan's decision was illogical and weak. Others, however, quietly nodded, recognizing the wisdom in his approach. Nyxara stood behind him, supporting his choice. "You are not just a human," she said firmly. "You are a leader." After the trials, Ethan and Nyxara were summoned to a private audience with the head of the council, Varric. "You have surprised us," he admitted reluctantly. "Your decisions are unconventional, yet they have merit." "Perhaps the king's choice was not as foolish as we believed," Ethan bowed. "Thank you, Varric. I only seek to honor the king's trust and prove that humans have value beyond what you expect." Varric studied him for a long moment. "We will observe you further." "The galaxy watches, human. Do not fail." Despite the grudging respect, the council remained wary. Alien nobles began plotting, seeing Ethan's success as a threat to their own status. Sabotage and intrigue followed quickly. One evening, while Ethan and Nyxara reviewed reports, a warning arrived. A rival noble had attempted to spread false information about a rebellion on a nearby planet, hoping to lure Ethan into a trap. If he reacted poorly, it could ruin his reputation. Nyxara frowned. "They think humans are easy to manipulate. They do not understand that we see patterns differently. They underestimate us." Ethan nodded. "We will not fall into their traps. We will act with caution and intelligence." They devised a plan to expose the false rebellion, using careful surveillance and communication. Ethan suggested sending messages to trusted contacts, cross-checking every piece of information. They caught the plotters red-handed, revealing the scheme to the council. The council was forced to acknowledge Ethan's cleverness. "Perhaps humans are more capable than we assumed," Varric said quietly. Nyxara's confidence in him grew. "You see, Ethan," she said one night, "we are stronger together. Your thinking and my experience complement each other. That is why the king chose you." Ethan smiled, feeling the first true sense of partnership he had ever experienced. "I am learning, and I will continue to prove that humans are worthy of trust and respect." Their partnership began to inspire others. Citizens of Vierlia, who had long been overlooked by the elite, noticed Ethan's fairness and wisdom. He treated everyone with respect, regardless of species or status. Slowly, he began to win hearts across the empire. But not everyone was pleased. Alien nobles who had once mocked Nyxara and humans now whispered in private councils, plotting to undermine the pair. One such noble, Lord Creven, arranged for a public challenge, an interstellar debate meant to embarrass Ethan in front of the galaxy. Nyxara warned him, "They will use every trick, every insult to make you falter. You must stay calm and think like a human, not like an alien." Ethan nodded. "I understand. I will not let them succeed." The debate was held in a massive arena, broadcast to planets across the empire. Representatives from dozens of species attended. The council watched closely, waiting for the human to fail. Lord Creven began with insults, mocking Ethan's appearance, species, and perceived weakness. The audience laughed, expecting him to stumble. Ethan remained calm. He listened carefully, responding with clear reasoning, facts, and empathy. He addressed every challenge logically, demonstrating not only knowledge but also compassion and fairness. Nyxara supported him from the side, whispering advice and offering insight into alien customs that Ethan might have missed. Together, they formed an unshakable team. By the end of the debate, the audience was silent. Ethan had not only defended himself but also challenged their assumptions about humans. The laughter and mockery had turned into respect and admiration. Lord Creven, humiliated, left the arena without a word. The council members exchanged glances, realizing that their prejudices had blinded them. Later, as Ethan and Nyxara walked through the palace gardens, Nyxara spoke. "Do you see what you have accomplished? You have shown them that humans are capable not by force but by thought and integrity." Ethan smiled, feeling a sense of pride and purpose. "I could not have done it without you. You guided me, taught me, and trusted me." Nyxara's eyes softened. "And you reminded me that strength comes in many forms. Your courage is human, but it is real. It matters." The bond between them grew stronger. They were no longer just a human and a princess. They were partners, ready to face whatever challenges the galaxy might send their way. But even as they celebrated small victories, the whispers of discontent among the nobles continued. Plots, schemes, and sabotage would not end here. The council still watched, waiting for a misstep, and the galaxy still underestimated humans. Ethan understood that the trials had only just begun. Every decision, every action, every choice he made would be scrutinized. But for the first time, he felt confident. He had proven that humans could rise above prejudice, think creatively, and act with integrity. And he knew that, together with Nyxara, they could change the galaxy's perception of humanity forever. The first real victories had been won, but the war for respect, trust, and recognition was only beginning. The victories of the council trials had brought Ethan and Nyxara some recognition, but peace was fleeting in the Virelian Empire. Whispers of discontent among nobles had grown louder, and the council's approval was still fragile. The human and the princess could not rest. A sudden alert arrived at the palace one morning. Sensors detected an unidentified fleet moving toward the Virelian border, a fleet far larger than any human or Virelian forces could have predicted. Panic spread quickly through the capital. The council convened an emergency session, and all eyes turned to Ethan and Nyxara. Varric spoke gravely. "The border fleet has not responded to communications. Their intentions are unknown, but they are approaching rapidly. This could be the beginning of a war." Nyxara stepped forward. "We cannot assume hostility. We must assess their capabilities, communicate if possible, and prepare our defenses. Ethan, I need you to help me coordinate our response." Ethan felt a surge of determination. This was the moment to prove that humans were more than diplomats. They could think, adapt, and lead under pressure. He and Nyxara quickly gathered intelligence reports, maps, and strategic data. The alien commanders insisted on following standard procedures, deploy fleets in defensive formations, engage immediately if approached, and rely on brute force. Ethan shook his head. "That will escalate the situation," he said. "We need a different approach. We must communicate first, understand who we are facing, and anticipate their tactics." Nyxara agreed. "Humans think differently," she whispered. "That difference may be our advantage." Using a combination of human logic and Nyxara's deep knowledge of the galaxy, they devised a plan. A small, fast fleet would approach the incoming forces, broadcasting messages of peace and requesting a parley. At the same time, sensor arrays would scan for weak points and potential threats. The council was skeptical. "This is risky," one commander said. "If they attack, we could lose everything." Ethan remained calm. "Yes, but acting with caution and intelligence reduces the risk. If we respond like the council expects, we may provoke what we fear." The fleet launched. Ethan monitored communications closely, analyzing alien signals, interpreting patterns, and suggesting adjustments. The incoming fleet, surprisingly, responded cautiously. They had not expected a measured approach from Vierlia. Nyxara relayed messages, while Ethan decoded subtleties in tone and timing. They discovered that the fleet was not hostile. It had been misdirected due to a communication error with its home system. The humans' logical approach and careful observation had prevented a catastrophic misunderstanding. The council reluctantly acknowledged the success, though some still muttered about human luck rather than skill. Ethan ignored them. There would always be critics. But the threat was only the beginning. As the day progressed, reports arrived of sabotage within the Vierlian fleet. Supplies had been tampered with, systems were failing, and misinformation spread among officers. Someone wanted to make Ethan fail, to prove that humans were incapable of leadership. Nyxara's expression darkened. "It seems our success has made enemies," she said. "We must find the saboteurs and stop them before they cause real damage." Ethan nodded. "We need evidence, careful observation, and quick action. The human approach is to think ahead, anticipate moves, and act with integrity. We can do this." They began a systematic investigation, interviewing crew members, reviewing logs, and monitoring system activity. Ethan noticed patterns that the aliens had overlooked, small inconsistencies in reports and behavior that pointed to the saboteurs. The first saboteur was discovered in the logistics department. A technician had been secretly rerouting supplies, intending to create shortages during a critical operation. Nyxara confronted the technician, and Ethan suggested using the evidence to prevent further harm without causing panic among the rest of the fleet. The council watched, impressed despite themselves. "The humans' methods are effective," Varric admitted quietly. Next, they uncovered an attempt to spread false intelligence to Ethan himself, fake reports of an attack, designed to lure him into making a mistake. Using careful cross-checking and logical reasoning, Ethan identified the deception and reported it to the council. "Your foresight is remarkable," one alien officer commented. "No one expected a human to anticipate this." Ethan smiled faintly. "Humans may be underestimated, but observation and reasoning can be powerful tools." As the investigation continued, the scale of the conspiracy became clear. A faction of jealous nobles, including Lord Creven, had orchestrated the sabotage, hoping to destroy Ethan's reputation and remove Nyxara's influence. They underestimated the combination of human ingenuity and Nyxara's experience. Nyxara spoke to Ethan as they reviewed the evidence. "They thought they could control the situation, manipulate outcomes, and embarrass you, but you think differently. That is why they will fail." Ethan felt a surge of confidence. "We are stronger together. I may be human, but with you, we can overcome their schemes." The council convened again to address the crisis. Ethan and Nyxara presented their findings, exposing the sabotage, the false reports, and the responsible parties. The council members were shocked at the depth of the conspiracy. Varrac's expression was serious. "It seems humans possess a different kind of strategy, one based on observation, analysis, and moral judgment. Perhaps the king was wise to choose this human." With the immediate threats neutralized, Ethan and Nyxara turned to broader strategy. They realized that the galaxy was not merely a place of politics and tradition. It was a place of potential danger, where mistakes could lead to war. Humans, with their adaptability and creativity, could offer solutions that aliens had never considered. Their next challenge came when a distant colony reported unusual energy readings, signals of an approaching fleet of unknown origin. The council demanded immediate defensive action. Most alien commanders pushed for a preemptive strike. Ethan disagreed. "We must first understand who they are," he insisted. "Attacking without knowledge could provoke war." Nyxara nodded. "I trust your judgment." Humans often see what we do not. Together, they coordinated reconnaissance, using small scout ships to gather data while preparing defensive measures that could be deployed if needed. The scouts discovered that the fleet belonged to a neutral species, migrating through the area by accident. Communication efforts, guided by Ethan's analysis, averted what could have been a major conflict. The council began to accept a hard truth: humans had a unique strength. They could combine intellect, empathy, and strategy in ways aliens often could not. Ethan's successes were reshaping perceptions across the galaxy, but the political challenges remained. Lord Creven and his allies began a campaign to discredit Ethan by questioning his loyalty and judgment. They claimed that his human reasoning was incompatible with Virelian leadership. Nyxara confronted the situation directly. They fear what they cannot control. They cannot match your abilities, so they try to destroy your credibility. We must remain focused, calm, and prepared. Ethan agreed. We will not let fear or prejudice dictate our actions. Our work speaks for itself. To counter Creven's propaganda, Ethan and Nyxara began traveling to colonies, meeting citizens, and demonstrating leadership firsthand. They resolved disputes, improved logistics, and helped communities thrive. The citizens' loyalty grew, and word spread across the empire of the human and the princess, who acted with intelligence, fairness, and courage. One evening, after a long day of travel, Nyxara and Ethan sat atop a hill overlooking a bustling colony. Lights shimmered across the landscape, and the hum of daily life carried on below. "You see what we are doing," Nyxara said softly. "We are changing perceptions, one person at a time." Ethan nodded. "Humans have always done this in small ways. We adapt, we help, we solve problems. Perhaps that is why the king chose me. Not because I am human, but because I can act like a human, seeing opportunity where others see only rules and hierarchy." Nyxara smiled. "And I am fortunate to have you by my side. Your courage and intellect complement my experience. Together, we are stronger than any council or noble faction." But the peace was fragile. Reports arrived of a rebellion in a neighboring system, fueled by misinformation and fear. Lord Creven had hoped that Ethan's human approach would fail, that his compassion would be seen as weakness. Ethan and Nyxara acted quickly. They gathered intelligence, verified facts, and sent envoys to negotiate with the rebel leaders. Ethan's human perspective allowed him to understand their grievances and propose solutions that respected both their needs and the council's authority. The rebellion was resolved without bloodshed, a victory that shocked the galaxy. Alien leaders who had doubted humans' ability to lead began to reconsider. Even the Galactic Council admitted quietly that Ethan's approach had prevented a war that could have devastated several systems. Nyxara turned to him afterward. "You have proven something extraordinary. Not just to them, but to yourself. Humans are capable of more than most species believe." Ethan smiled. "And we have only just begun. There will always be challenges, but together we can meet them." As the sun set over the Virelian horizon, Ethan and Nyxara knew that their partnership had changed the empire. Humans were no longer seen as weak or inferior. They were a force to be respected, a new kind of leader in a galaxy that had underestimated them. The battles ahead would be more difficult. Political enemies, interstellar threats, and cultural prejudices remained. But for the first time, Ethan believed that humans had a place among the stars, not as mere participants, but as true leaders. And Nyxara, once mocked for her appearance, had found a partner who saw her brilliance. Together, they would face the galaxy's challenges, proving that courage, intelligence, and integrity could overcome even the deepest prejudice. The stage was set for a final test, one that would determine not just Ethan's reputation, but the future of human influence in the Empire. The galaxy was watching, and the laughter of those who had mocked them before was beginning to fade. For Ethan and Nyxara, the true trial was only just beginning. The final trial for Ethan Ward was not a simple test of diplomacy or strategy. It was a true test of leadership under pressure. The Virelian Empire faced a crisis unlike any before. A massive fleet, larger and more advanced than any previously encountered, had entered the border systems. Reports suggested they were mercenaries from beyond the known galaxy, and their intentions were unknown. Panic swept through the capital. The Galactic Council convened in emergency session. The chamber, usually filled with whispers and intrigue, was tense with fear. Every eye turned to Ethan and Nyxara. The council's skepticism had faded somewhat, but uncertainty still lingered. Could a human and a princess, often mocked for her appearance, lead the Empire through a real threat? Varrock, the council's head, addressed them gravely. This fleet moves with speed and precision. We have no record of their kind and their technology is unfamiliar. We must act quickly or entire systems may fall. Nyxara turned to Ethan. We've faced challenges before, but this is unlike anything we've seen. Their power is unknown. We must combine intelligence, diplomacy, and strategy to survive. Ethan nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility, but also a surge of determination. This was the moment he had prepared for, the moment to prove that humans could rise to any challenge. They began by gathering all available intelligence. Scouts were deployed to approach the fleet cautiously, while communication attempts were made. The aliens expected a show of force, but Ethan suggested a different approach, one of observation, analysis, and understanding. This fleet is unfamiliar, but we must not assume hostility, Ethan explained to the council. If we react with aggression, we may provoke a conflict. Instead, we should gather information and seek understanding first. Nyxara supported him. The human perspective allows us to see options we might otherwise overlook. Let us trust his judgment. As scouts returned, the data was overwhelming. The fleet's design, its formations, and its technology were unlike anything the Virelians had encountered. Most council members panicked, urging immediate attack, but Ethan remained calm, analyzing the patterns and behavior of the fleet. He noticed subtle signs, slight hesitations in their movements, small deviations in their formations, that suggested they were not hostile, at least not initially. They were explorers or perhaps traders, cautious and curious. Ethan proposed a plan. A delegation would approach the fleet under neutral flags, with Nyxara and himself leading the communication. At the same time, the Virelian defenses would be positioned strategically, prepared for combat if necessary but not deployed aggressively. The council grumbled, uncertain about the plan. "This is risky," Varrock admitted. "If they attack, we could lose everything." Ethan replied confidently, "True leadership is not measured by force alone. Observation, reasoning, and diplomacy are equally powerful. If we act with intelligence, we may avoid unnecessary conflict." Nyxara placed a reassuring hand on his arm. "We've faced skepticism before. This is no different. Trust in our judgment." The delegation launched, approaching the unknown fleet. Ethan carefully monitored communications, using logic and empathy to interpret their responses. Slowly, he discovered that the fleet sought passage through Virelian space to reach a distant system. They were wary of conflict, but cautious due to unfamiliarity with the Empire's laws and customs. Ethan's calm, thoughtful approach and Nyxara's cultural knowledge allowed them to negotiate safe passage. They established protocols for travel, trade, and communication that respected both parties' needs. The fleet agreed to move peacefully, avoiding conflict entirely. The council was stunned. "The human, he has prevented a war," one member whispered, but peace was not enough. The crisis had revealed weaknesses within the Virelian Empire. Rival nobles and factions still sought to exploit situations for personal gain. Some had spread false rumors, attempting to destabilize Ethan's influence while the galaxy watched. Nyxara turned to him. Even as we prevent conflict with outsiders, we must defend ourselves from within. The nobles will act if they see opportunity. Ethan nodded. We must act with wisdom, fairness, and strategy. Humans have always relied on observation, reason, and cooperation. That will guide us now. They began a campaign of reform and transparency. Orders were simplified, communication chains clarified, and resources distributed more fairly. Ethan worked directly with colony leaders, listening to their concerns, resolving disputes, and demonstrating that leadership was not about fear or appearance but action and fairness. The empire began to change. Citizens across systems spoke of the human and the princess who acted justly and wisely. Slowly, the image of humans as weak and unimportant began to fade. Lord Creven, still bitter from his failures, attempted one final sabotage. He spread a false report claiming that Ethan had misled the council, endangering border systems. Panic erupted among some factions, and the council demanded an explanation. Ethan acted swiftly. He gathered evidence, verified facts, and presented the truth calmly and clearly. The falsity of Creven's claims was revealed, and the noble was stripped of authority. This final act solidified Ethan's reputation, not just as a human, but as a capable leader of the Virelian Empire. Nyxara turned to him afterward. You have proven something extraordinary. Not just to them, but to yourself. Humans are capable of greatness when judged by their actions, not appearances. Ethan smiled. And we have done it together. Your guidance, wisdom, and trust have made this possible. The council convened one last time. Varrock, who had once doubted him, now spoke with respect. Ethan Ward, human, you have demonstrated leadership, intelligence, and courage beyond what we expected. The king's choice, once ridiculed, is now justified. You have earned the respect of the Galactic Council and the people of the Empire. The chamber erupted in applause. Some aliens still whispered, reluctant to admit their prejudice, but the majority recognized the truth. A human had led an empire through crisis, solved disputes, and demonstrated qualities that even the most advanced species sometimes lacked. Ethan felt a sense of fulfillment. He had begun as an outsider, laughed at by the council and the nobility. He had faced trials, sabotage, and threats from unknown forces, and yet, through observation, intelligence, and integrity, he had succeeded. Nyxara stood beside him, proud and resolute. We have shown the galaxy what humans can do. Not because we are strong in body or intimidating in appearance, but because we act with wisdom, courage, and compassion. Ethan nodded. The king saw what many could not, and now others can see it too. News spread quickly across the Virelian Empire. Citizens celebrated the human and the princess who had acted with fairness and brilliance. Merchants, farmers, and soldiers spoke of their achievements, and even distant planets began to recognize the value of humans in galactic affairs. Lord Creven, humbled and defeated, left the capital quietly. His plots had failed, and the Empire had seen the strength of a human mind combined with Virelian wisdom. As night fell over the capital, Ethan and Nyxara stood on a balcony overlooking the city. Lights shimmered across towers and streets, and the hum of life carried on below. We have accomplished much, Nyxara said softly, but there will always be challenges ahead. The galaxy is vast, and prejudice does not disappear overnight. Ethan smiled, feeling a deep sense of purpose. We will face them together. Humans have a place here not as guests but as equals, and we will continue to prove it, one action at a time. They looked out at the stars, knowing that their journey was far from over. Yet for the first time, the galaxy had seen what humans could achieve: courage, intelligence, fairness, and determination. The laughter of the council and the nobles, once mocking and cruel, had been replaced by respect and admiration. Humans were no longer underestimated. They were leaders, innovators, and a force that the galaxy could no longer ignore. And at the heart of this transformation stood a human and a princess, united by trust, courage, and the belief that actions mattered more than appearances. Ethan Ward had arrived as an outsider, laughed at for his species and his human frailty. Now he stood as a symbol of human potential, proving that even in a galaxy of advanced species, one human could change perceptions, inspire loyalty, and lead with integrity. Nyxara placed her hand gently on his shoulder. The king's wisdom was greater than anyone realized. He saw the potential not just in me, but in you. Ethan nodded. And together, we will continue to show the galaxy what humans can do. The stars above glimmered as if acknowledging their resolve. The empire was safe, the council convinced, and the people inspired. The human who had inherited the so-called ugly princess had turned laughter into respect, mockery into admiration, and skepticism into belief. The journey of Ethan Ward and Princess Nyxara was only beginning. The galaxy would continue to challenge them, but they were ready. Humans had earned their place among the stars. And the story of the human who inherited the Virelian princess would be remembered for generations, not as a tale of ridicule, but as a testament to courage, intelligence, and the unbreakable spirit of humanity. The Galactic Council laughed when a human inherited the king's ugly daughter in his will.